And I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Calimesa City Council meeting to order. Um, If we could have roll call, please, starting.
Councilmember Cundiff,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Manley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cervantes,
Here.
Mayor Molina.
Here, thank you. And for the record, let it show that City Manager Cobo is here, City Attorney Flower is here, City Clerk Gertis is here, Finance Director Reed is here, Interim Public Works Director Shakir is here, City Engineer Thornton's here, Fire Chief O'Connell, and Sheriff Captain Northrop are here this evening. Thank you all so much. At this time, if you could please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and honoring our country. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. This evening, we have a special couple of presentations. I'd like to call up Katrin Mance with One Legacy. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. I think I'm on, and I'm loud anyway, so.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the mayor, to the city council, and to the city of Calimesa. So my name is Kat. I am the mother of 3. My 11-year-old son, Christopher, was autistic. He was in the 6th grade. He loved trains and Batman, and his favorite color was blue. Unlike many autistic children, he didn't shy away from affection. He was the first one to want a hug or to need to cuddle. I really missed that, hugging my big little boy. Almost 7.5 years ago, he accidentally suffocated in his therapy swing in our home. He was rushed to Kaiser and then immediately to Loma Linda Children's Hospital. I don't know what I would have done without the care and the support of the healthcare team. Unfortunately, after exhaustive efforts, they were unable to save him. But because of the hard work and the care that they gave him, he was able to save 5 lives through organ and tissue donation. Both of his heart valves went to children under the age of 5. His liver went to a woman in Pasadena. His kidney and pancreas went to a man named Christopher, who just last December welcomed his very first grandchild into this world. So I'm pretty sure that makes me a great-grandma adjacent. Christopher's other kidney went to a little boy named Eddie. Eddie was born with dysplastic kidney disease, and at 3 months he was put on a feeding tube, and at 10 months he was put on dialysis, and he spent the first 3.5 years of his life in and out of hospitals fighting for his life. When his family finally got the call that there was a kidney for Eddie, my Chris's kidney, he was on dialysis 10 hours a day. That was almost 7.5 years ago. Today, Eddie is an energetic and active 11-year-old. He plays baseball and soccer. He's joined the Boy Scouts, and he is just about to finish the 5th grade. And although Christopher will never again go to school or play outside, I now have the great joy and pleasure of watching this little man live his very best life because of my little man. Christopher used to tell us he was a cyborg, made up of different parts and pieces. And whenever he was sick or injured, he'd tell us he could swap out his broken pieces for new ones. Well, as you can imagine, we never had a conversation with our 11-year-old son about what he would want us to do if he were to suddenly pass. But I take comfort in knowing that if he had had the choice, this is the one that he would have made. His cyborg dreams are now a reality. There are still 105,000 people waiting for that life-saving gift. 22,000 of them live here in the state of California. Anything we can do to make people aware and informed of this life-saving choice, we must do. Christopher is gone, but he lives on in others. And because of organ and tissue donation, Christopher is not only remembered by his family and friends, but by the family and the friends of the lives that he helped save. And for that, I will forever be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrin. From one great-grandmother to another.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is this your 3rd or 4th visit to our city?
This is my 3rd year, yeah.
Okay, because I remember you well.
Thank you.
So I would just like to thank you for your strength and I admire your thoughtfulness to save lives of other children through, is it One Legacy?
One Legacy.
So, hold on just a second. We would like to present you with this proclamation. It's to DMV Donate Life Month, April 2025. I won't read it, it's quite a few whereases.
There's a lot of whereases.
But I just wanted to thank you
Oh.
and tell you how much we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And celebrate you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for your
coming
constant
forward.
support.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Okay, we have three requests to speak this evening. Is there anyone else who did not get a slip in to speak tonight? Okay, I'll call up Elizabeth Bishop. If you'll speak clearly into the microphone, please. Thank you. State your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Bishop, and I thank you for your time and consideration this evening. I spoke at the last council meeting when it was proposed about the Rent Stabilization Board being abolished in favor of a single officer. At that time, I made a misstatement, and I'd like to amend that. I had stated that I wasn't aware that there were positions available on the board. That was not accurate. I actually had applied along with three other people that I know of to fill one of those positions. I never heard from anybody about that application, not even acknowledging receipt of the application. So my question is, how diligently have we really tried to fill this board before we consider abolishing it? I'm concerned about the fact that we have been coming here for a year now, presenting to you our fears in regard to the rent control and what's going to happen with these park owners, and specifically our owner, and what he's been trying to do. And we've been told all along we're worrying about something that has not come to pass. Well, now it has. So our fears appear to be extremely founded and well-founded. My concern is we open this door, you're going to have a homeless situation. By your own calculations at last meeting, 25% of this city is seniors. And we all know that rent control and mobile home living is the last bastion of affordable housing in California. Are you really going to consider a move that could have the potential of 25% of your constituents facing homelessness? Is this really where we're at? And you want to abolish a board of volunteers, 3 voices of which have no vested interest in a decision one way or the other, in favor of now paying somebody who can be unduly influenced, in my opinion. Couldn't that money be put to better use somewhere else? You've had it in a fund for how many years? You haven't used it, per se, what you stated last week, or last meeting. Can't we find a better use for that money? And can't we stand up and have your seniors' backs? Your park owners are making a concerted effort to abolish this. They want to overturn rent control so that they can get more than fair market value in these properties. He did it at the Aladdin. He's trying to do it at the Californian now. Please, I implore you, I beg of you, do not open this door. Do not let them get their foot in that door and have this happen. Please, I beg of you, reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your comments. Steve Negretti.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Negretti, President of the Calimesa Cultural Performing Arts Association. I'm here to address, every year we come in and ask, you guys have been helping to fund us for the last 20 some odd years. We present the concerts on the green, and you've been most generous. We are an all-volunteer board, and we've been receiving, usually it's been about $2,000 from the council. It went up to $4,000. Last couple years we've been very generous, and we've asked for a bump in money because it's gotten so expensive for us to try to put on these concerts. And we've heard that it's going to be a little bit tougher to get money, and we just want to ensure that we are still able to perform what has been one of the only recreational venues for the people of the city of Calimesa. This has been a 20-year tradition here in the city of Calimesa. We bring entertainment here. We put on about 8 shows, but now we've come up against some very stiff competition. Last year, the city of Banning went head-to-head with us, and we had a lot of problems with the attendance declining. So this year, we're trying to come in early and go on different nights. And so what we're trying to do is ask the council to give us the same amount of money that they did last year. We're still trying to get our donations. We're going to go on a different night and try to pick the money back up. We suffered in 2020 from COVID, and that killed a lot of our bank account that we've still been trying to come up with, because we pass a bucket. We are nonprofit, and most of our money comes from the people who come to see our concerts. So we would like to ask the council to once again support us for the $8,000. And I do surveys with the city of Banning, Beaumont. We know that we're a small city compared to them, but for the per capita, we still need your support in order for us to put these concerts on. When Mayor Davis was here, where our transparency, we like to show you guys where every dime goes. You're welcome to come to every meeting if you'd like to see where your money goes if you'd like that, and you're always invited. So please, we implore you to help us again this year, and you're always welcome, because we're very transparent with this. But this is a tradition, and we'd like to keep this going again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Joyce McIntyre.
Joyce McIntyre, Douglas Street, Calimesa resident, mayor, council members, staff. The city posted on their Facebook page a road closure notice stating that Monday, March 31st, Bryant County Line Road intersection would be closed 24/7 for 7 days. Keep an eye out for the detours, plan ahead, and drive safe. On April 3rd, as a resident, I commented on Bryant and County Line Road intersection closure. The city messaged me in Messenger, good morning, quote, good morning. The work currently being done is not the city, it is South Mesa. I didn't ask anything about that, really, but that's what they sent me. And to me, they're just passing the buck on. The city is the responsibility for County Line Road, roundabout approving detour patterns, road closures, projects, and work being performed. The city, after that, somehow, and I don't know why, and this is what we got to get to the bottom of, the city sent a reply, not to me, but to an individual from their business chat, having no idea or control of where this replying, mentioning me, would end up. This was sent to me by the individual. The city business chat stated comments and accusation about my character and integrity. I never made any comments as an elected official. I asked questions as a resident. The city should be able to answer these questions without making statements and accusations or discussing me with anyone in Facebook, Messenger, or business chat. So what I would like is the city council to find out who wrote and sent that business chat response to whoever and that individual, because this needs to get to find out. You guys need to find out how this was generated, because I'm puzzled. I mean, I showed it to council member Eric Kundriff, and it's just puzzling, because all this in here, I didn't even know what they were talking about. So we need to get to what was above that. okay? So we need to know how this was generated. And Darlene will give you copies, okay? So you can read through it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your comments. Are there any other people that would like to speak this evening? Okay, before we move on to approval of the agenda and the consent calendar, I would like to pull item 6. And so at this point, I'd like to, if there are no other issues with the council, with no other public comments, get an approval of the agenda and consent calendar and waiver of full readings of ordinances.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is that Edward? Oh, Jeff,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
None opposed? Okay, so item number 6, agreement with the Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District for the summer lunch program in Calimesa. At this time, I would like to call up Ann Van Dam with the Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District to speak about this program. Thank you, Ann.
You bet. Thank you so much, Mayor Molina and City Council members. Again, my name is Ann Van Dam. I am the, didn't think I was that tall. I am the Child Nutrition Director at Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District. And thank you so much for giving me a few moments to highlight our partnership through this agreement that I hope you will approve tonight. So, goodness gracious, we have been providing lunches at your beautiful 4th Street Park since, I think, 2016. We did have a couple of years from COVID. We'll pretend not to remember those years. But ever since then, we have been able to provide all youth, 18 years and younger, at the 4th Street. And I want to, of course, thank Mayor Molina for being such a partner and providing not only volunteers, which your city has done faithfully, just at least once to help my staff along, as well as helping also to bring activities to the park so that our kiddos and families can not only enjoy a lunch, which again we provide hot and cold choices, and farm fresh fruits and vegetables, but also, you know, a little activity just to get them out of the house. And again, your park is absolutely beautiful. It provides great shade when those days, even though we serve at 10:30, so nice and early, as Mayor Molina has asked us to. And anyway, I wanted to thank you so much for bringing that to, giving me an opportunity to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. I know we ask for an early time because it gets so hot during the summer and most of the kids walk to the park. So this is a park that is going to be expanded, and towards the end of the year will be also known as Mountain View Park. It'll be extended to 5th. And so thank you for the program. We're working, you and I are both have been in communication with the Riverside Library System to get somebody from the library to come and read to the kids. I know our library, right.
Yeah, maybe 2 days a week.
2 days a week.
It's going to be fantastic.
Right, and some other activities. And so thank you so much. Kids have to eat even though it's school food. Some kids, that's all they have during the day. And so we're very appreciative of you working with us to provide food for these children. And it's also for persons with disabilities. Usually the lunch is for kids up to the age of 18.
Right.
So thank you for your cooperation and for coming tonight.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. So at this point, I'd like to have a motion to approve agreement with the Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District for the summer lunch program in Calimesa.
I'll move to approve item number 6 on the consent calendar.
Thank you, John.
I second that.
Thank you, Edgar. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you so much. Okay, we're on to number 8, item number 8. Let's see, I'm sorry, Sheriff Captain report. Captain Northrup.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Going to go over the Part 1 crimes. I know I've said it before, I don't like to stand up here and provide numbers, but that's what we're going to do today. So Part 1 crimes, everybody should be well versed. For the month of March, we had 1 robbery, 6 assaults, 3 burglaries, 6 vehicle thefts and 18 thefts. We had a total calls for service of 513. The carjacking, the robbery was actually a carjacking. I'll get into that in just a minute here. And then with the vehicles, there was one of those vehicles, or one of those was a vehicle. The other 5 were actually trailers that were stolen when I talk about the vehicle thefts. So on March 9th, we had a carjacking. Carjackings qualify as a robbery in the Part 1 crimes. And essentially what had occurred was, this was a late reported carjacking. The victim tried to report the carjacking to an allied agency. For whatever reason, that didn't happen. About a week had passed, and he then again reported it to us and provided some details as to what occurred. And essentially, he reported that his vehicle was stolen at knife point. We used the flock camera systems. We entered the vehicle into Kletz as stolen, and the flock cameras then directed us to Whitewater, the Whitewater area. Deputies responded to that area, located the car, and a pursuit ensued. The pursuit went eastbound on the 10 at a very high rate of speed. At some point, deputies lost the vehicle. Palm Springs then saw the vehicle enter their city. Deputies and Palm Springs police were able to set up a perimeter, and ultimately they apprehended the suspect of the carjacking, who also was driving the vehicle. Any questions on the carjacking? No.
Was this a crime of opportunity? Was there a relationship?
So it seems that the victim and the suspect had some relationship, somewhat acquaintances. They had met a few times previously, but beyond that, it wasn't like a family member or anything like that. So, and then on March 20th, the Calimesa POP deputy, along with Crime Suppression Unit, conducted a quality of life sweep in the city. They conducted 11 traffic enforcement stops, wrote 9 citations for traffic violations, 5 parking citations were issued, 3 arrests were made for traffic violations, 2 arrests for drug violations, and 1 subject was issued a citation for a city ordinance. That's generally it for the Part 1 crimes and significant incidents. Any questions?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Captain, the burglaries that occurred, were those were residential or were they commercial or?
A mix.
A mix?
A mix. And I don't have the breakdown of numbers, but there was a mix.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for your report.
Thank you.
Fire Chief report. Chief O'Connell.
Evening, Mayor and members of the council. Year to date, we have 661 responses as compared to last April 7th. We were at 479. That's an increase of 182 calls over the last 365 days for 27.5%. Medical aids year to date, we're at 441 combined with our miscellaneous public assist, lift assist, and helping the elderly type of calls. That puts us at 460 calls for service, or 69.5% of our activity medical related. Fire responses year to date, we're at 18 for 2.7% of our activity. Our auto and mutual aid responses, and forgive me for not recalling exactly which one of you had asked about those, but that accounts for 19% of our activity. A total of 128 requests with 39 cancellations for 89 actual calls for service or auto aid that we've provided to the other cities. And a total of 16 calls where we've requested mutual aid for 2.4% of our overall call volume. So we're handling business with our current service model very well in my estimation. Our average response time continues to climb. We're just under 7 minutes is our average response time throughout the city. And again, take into account for the public that's listening, Station 1 is right here next to us, and we respond clear across the city, where our calls for service account for 75% of our responses in that desert lawn area. So that's the reason for that increase in calls for service. And pending your questions, that's the end of my report tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. Okay, on to business items. Item number 9, SCAG, which stands for Southern California Association of Governments, 2025 General Assembly appointment of voting delegate and alternate voting delegate. Did you want to go which one?
Okay, so here we are again, as we are annually. I'm just a little behind this year. The General Assembly for SCAG is May 1st and 2nd in Palm Desert. And for each one of those, or every year for the General Assembly, we need to select a voting delegate and an alternate voting delegate. At this point, Mayor Molina is the only one going that I know of. It's a free event for any council members to attend. So if you would like to go, just let me know. But tonight, if we could make the selection of the voting delegate and alternate voting delegate, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I will be providing, I will be attending that, and I will be providing at our next council meeting, which is April 21st, the items that we'll be discussing so that we can get consensus from the council before I go. And so they always ask for an alternate voting delegate. I'll be the main person, and so I'd like to ask Eric if you'd be available to go to that, since you're familiar with.
I'd be happy to, yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to nominate you two?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll entertain a motion to approve 2 delegates to the SCAG meeting on May 1st and 2nd in 2025 to attend the SCAG General Assembly in Palm Desert.
I'll move to appoint Mayor Molina as the voting delegate and Councilmember Cundiff as the alternate.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, item number 10, Local Responsibility Area Fire Hazard Severity Zone Mapping 2025, State of California Executive Order N-18-25, Compliance, Public Comment Period.
This is
O'Connell
the
will be
chief,
presenting.
yes. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, if you're reminded of my lengthy reports on this over the last several months, if not more than a year, I've been coming before council and pleading with the public to pay attention to the finality of this regarding Executive Order N-18-25 compliance and the opening of public comment period. Tonight I'm before you, and I recommend that the City Council direct staff to begin compliance measures, opening a public comment period as received from State California Executive Order N-18-25 in direct correlation with the adoption process required by Government Code Sections 51178 and 51179. Moving into the background, and before I open up into the background, we're in uncharted territory here. This is an unfunded mandate. It's going to require compliance in new measures on the municipal code level, the adoption and opening of public comment to which there is no rebuttal response or any way to react to the administrative order, the executive order from the governor. So the State of California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection is mandated by government code to identify levels of fire hazard based upon consistent statewide criteria in order to determine levels of fire severity, potential for lands, watershed, and properties located within and adjacent to the areas of wildland-urban interface, which I'm sure you've heard it referred to as WUI, and or wildland-urban intermix. And just a really quick touch on that. Our homes, such as JP Ranch, the heights. When we back up to an undeveloped area, even across the freeway, that's WUI. We're wildland urban interface. When we have homes, and I'll use the Oak Hills area and some of the other older developed areas that are in and around heavy vegetation, that's intermix. So that's the difference between the two. So getting back on track, the state responsibility area, the houses that border up to the SRA, and the local responsibility area. So the Badlands, anything across the freeway and in the foothills that's governed, unincorporated areas that's covered by the state of California, CAL FIRE, is SRA, state responsibility area. Everything within the city limits, within our borders, is considered local responsibility area. So historically, the ratings range from moderate to high, to very high, or a combination of those two. The reevaluation and release of the 2024 state responsibility area mapping is resulted in much controversy and extended public commentary. So just let me be clear on that. When we went through the SRA map approval process, usually goes to the State Office of Administrative Law. OAL reviews the public commentary and then adjusts and adopts the implementation of the mapping. Historically, it's one comment period usually, or so I've been notified or observed myself. We did a total of 3 for those state responsibility area mappings. There was a lot of controversy into that. And that is as a result of the implementation of the newly adopted metrics used by this Office of the State Fire Marshal's Office to determine fire hazard severity rezoning. We were notified the implementation of the 2025 hazard fire severity zone mapping resulted in changes to the map for the fire hazard severity zone for the map and data directly affecting the city of Calimesa. These changes are available for preview located on the World Wide Web at the following online address, and I'm going to give it for the listening public. It's https / fire space hazard severity zones rollout calfireforestry.hub, and it's arcgis.com. That is available on our website. It's contained within this staff report, and it's available online. If you look at fire hazard severity zone rollout, if you Google that, implement it, it should direct you to the portals that provide the information. The other important item to look at is California Government Code Section 51179. Those two combined resource material portals tell you exactly what, how, and why we got here, and why we need to be compliant. Moving into the controversy, this again is an unfunded mandate, and the change is going to be the required compliance of Executive Order N-18-25 based upon the identification of structures located in what we've now be classified as high and very high fire severity zones. The big change, the new one that's going to touch all of us, is the implementation of the concept of Zone 0. And I'll come back to that, but Zone 0 will require removal of all combustible material. That's all combustible material located within 5 feet of any structure. From 0 to 5 feet, there can be no combustible material. Previous requirements for defensible space historically included 2 zones. Zone 1 is considered 30 feet of what could best be described as lean, clean, and green clearance, fuel modifications. Zone 2 requires 30 to 100 feet of reduced fuel with a minimum of 6 inches of ground clearance and reduced ladder fuels. So historically, in that zone 30 and very low vegetation and ornamental vegetation, in that second zone, you could, from 6 inches, you could have trees, shrubbery, excuse me, easy for me to say, shrubbery and ornamental vegetation that was arranged and pruned in ladder fuel or height, distance, and spacing variations. So additionally, there is no current provision for local government to respond to the concerns expressed by what would be commentators or adjust the maps based upon the required feedback to be received by local government entities during the mandated public comment period. The staff report and recommendation before staff tonight is to direct the city clerk to open up comment period on the city website to receive those comments and to store those, warehouse those, and what we're supposed to do with them, I have no idea, because they're not supposed to go anywhere. So we have that. There is no mechanism to respond to public comment. And it's very frustrating for almost every single fire chief in the state of California. What do we do with this? How do we serve our public? How do we respond? How do we collaborate and cooperate to meet these requirements? At current, I say there's no fiscal impact directly, but at some point after the public comment, myself, Deputy Fire Marshal Rodriguez will be working with our city attorney, and we're going to have to come back after the public comment period closes, and we're going to entertain the introduction of a new municipal code that will require us to make these adoptions as handed down by the state. Attached to the staff report is the transmittal letter of the fire hazard severity zone that I received from the State Fire Marshal Daniel Berlant. There's a copy of the State of California Executive Order N-18-25, and then attachment C is that rollout. The specific maps, and I've looked at the overlays, it's hard to decipher on the website exactly what streets and the impacts, the overlays, but we've changed. We've got some areas that may have been at high, they're now classified as very high, but for the most part, our city is located within the high and very high fire hazard severity zones by the nature of where we're located in relationship to the terrain and microterrain of our surrounding county and communities. So that's the end of my report, pending any of your questions.
I don't even know where to begin with this. So is there a mechanism in place if we do not adopt this that we will be fined, or what would this do to us if we chose not to adopt this?
So by the nature of my position, I would defer to the city manager and the city attorney, but in my estimation, based on previous similar types of unfounded mandates or these types of mandates, we'd be subject to be sanctioned, and they could probably expound on that a little better.
I'll be honest, I haven't researched the exact penalties that would apply. It is a mandatory process that every city goes through in adopting these maps. I imagine they're probably jeopardizing funding and other things along the way.
Well, the reason I'm asking is this seems completely unreasonable to ask our citizens to remove within 5 feet of their home fencing that attaches to their home, grass, shrubs, trees, anything that could be considered combustibles.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. My own home is, I've already looked, it's in the new very high hazard area. What I can say is that is a down the line from this process. This is about adopting the maps. There's a specified process that we're required to go through. What we're talking about with the zone 0, that is a consequence that will follow with the adoption of further changes.
Yeah, but it all starts with the maps, right?
It does start with the maps, but that's a non-negotiable point, at least to open up the public comment period at this point. We will be returning at the close of that public comment period and before some time.
I think we have 60 days
Something like
thereabouts
that, yeah.
to implement a municipal code.
We'll bring back an ordinance to adopt a map, and then from there, we'll talk about what happens about implementation of the new requirements.
So I'm looking at Government Code Section 51179, and it says that the local agencies shall designate by ordinance the moderate, high, and very high fire hazard areas within 120 days receiving recommendations from the state fire marshal. So that would be March 24th. So it's 120 days from March 24th. The language goes on to say basically that we could adopt a higher level of severity than what's mapped, but we can't do anything lower. So if there was a moderate area, we could adopt a very high. I don't know why anyone would do that, but you could do that. You can do more, you can make it more restrictive, not less restrictive. We're required to transmit the ordinance. Yeah, it says changes made by a local agency to the recommendations made by the fire marshal are unrebuttable. And yeah, there's nothing in here about penalties in this particular section. So there may be other parts of the government code, but it's not in that particular section.
Well,
So.
and then who's going to enforce this, right? I mean, there's no funding from them coming to us, not to mention the cost that's going to be dumped onto the citizens of our city to have to remove and replace countless amounts of property. I mean, this is silly. It's just lunacy to me. I don't understand it. I mean, I understand it. I just don't understand how they can try to mandate this and push this upon us. I don't support this, and I'm in opposition of it. So.
I think I echo Councilmember Cundiff's frustration with this. It's hard to articulate frustration. You feel like you're just being given something you completely disagree with, right? I'm looking at the map right now, and for those who follow the link from the agenda, if you get to the map viewer, there's a section in the top left corner. You can select your view, and I think there's a hybrid option that allows you to see the street names and stuff, so you can figure out where you're at and so forth. And so just looking at the map, I mean, I want to know, do you know anything about the logic that went into how it was determined with the zone here? Because according to this map, you know, for example, our Stater Brothers shopping center on Cherry Valley is in a very high fire zone, whereas our Stater Brothers here off of Myrtlewood is in no fire zone at all. And so try to help me understand the difference in how they classify one as being a very high risk and one as being no risk at all.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, the methodology used and the new metrics as they're described, the science behind it, historically, the first thing that's been considered is fire history. What's wildland fire historically? What's that history look like? And we have significant fire history in the area. So fire history, and that is judged and evaluated based on terrain, weather, wind, fuel types, fuel models. So considering what would be considered to be the perfect storm, what they call perfect alignment, is when you have fuel arranged on an elevated canyon type of landscape feature, and then the fuel type is like us, that we have sage, chaparral, chamise, we have grasses, and the arrangement, the height of the fuel, on a perfect day when the sun rises in the east to the west, the fuel's dry and it gets a little wind on it, what's that fire behavior going to be like? And then what's the fire burn pattern look like as compared to when you have a little bit of wind on it? And a little bit of wind is anywhere from 0 to 3 miles an hour to our Santa Ana conditions. And that's been the historical mapping for fire behavior modeling and figuring. My understanding, what now is used, and getting to your point exactly, as we look at houses that are, or structures that are in green zones. So we have structures that are not surrounded by fuel, and they're in these what would be seemingly open areas, but you have a fire that's on either side of them, and when a fire burns, it produces what is referred to as ember cast. So that ember cast, and I personally saw this in Santa Rosa back 2017-ish, where it lost entire communities based on that ember cast. We saw it, I think, in the Paradise area, and I believe, I tend to believe that most of us have seen some sort of news footage of what occurred in Paradise when that ember cast blows. It's unstoppable. It's like being in a sandstorm, but they're burning embers. So that ember cast has been factored in, and where does that ember cast go, and what's that fire potential? At least that's what's been explained to me by people much smarter than me, is all of that perfect alignment situation with ember cast now is used to model what is the difference between high and very high. So that's my understanding of the science. And
Yeah.
don't take me verbatim,
No,
I could get it wrong.
Obviously, my frustration isn't with you, G. It's just with the. I just feel like there's people making these decisions who haven't even set foot in these neighborhoods or these areas, right? And so they're sitting behind a screen in an armchair, maybe somewhere, right, looking at, saying, "Oh, this, and this." When having the boots on the ground and looking where you're at, you may get a very, very different understanding of you would draw these lines differently, in other words, right? So, I don't know.
I can tell you that with all the differences and the differences of opinion in the fire service, in the state of California Fire Service, that I'm very confident in saying that I'm probably in lockstep, shoulder to shoulder, and of the same opinion with almost every fire chief in the state of California. The frustration isn't with the mapping. The frustration isn't with the science. The frustration is with, we don't have any mechanism to respond, to react, to adapt and provide a reasonable response and service, and we're forced into a corner. And we don't, funds are tight as it is.
Right.
And we're working an uphill battle. There's a million other things we could talk about, not appropriate for here right now. And now we're forced to deal with this and not given the tools and the mechanism to do it.
Well, that's the underlying issue, and also how it impacts real people in our community, right? Because these maps are inevitably going to be used to provide premiums for people, and somebody who's on one street is going to be paying 3 times more than somebody on another, just because they're in this red zone and somebody else happens to be in a dividing line, and it's just arbitrary in some ways, that, and so I guess that's all that around about to say. I know you mentioned the appeals process is not much of or the public comment period isn't much of an appeal or anything like that, or how we, what's that going to look like? Are we talking about that right now, or how are we going to do that in our community or amongst our?
Well, I think what we can do might be, obviously we're not the only city dealing with this, right? And so this is something that's prime for the League of California Cities, right? For them to take up. And I think that if a bunch of cities collect this public comment, we provide it to our lobbyists with Cal Cities, I think that can probably be our call to action on a statewide level. I think that's probably the best path, is to, and maybe Mayor Molina, I don't know if that conversation's already started.
It has been.
Perfect. So I think what we probably do is we just keep those comments and have them ready to go when that time comes to provide it to the league, and I think we go from there. So I think in that sense we need to encourage, even though it may not immediately impact what we're doing right now, I think we still need to encourage the public to comment and to provide feedback. We can, even talk about doing a letter or a resolution at the council level to talk about our concerns about that and submit that as well. So it wouldn't be, obviously it would be, ceremonial in a way, because it's not enforceable, but it certainly, it says that we're taking a firm stand. So that's something that we can do too.
Well, I know Cal Cities is working on it, and the public affairs manager for Riverside County is willing to come to cities and come to us and tell us what the league is doing exactly. But the cities that I've talked to, they're actually going through their city information and locations of housing and actually pointing out areas that are high risk, areas that are not, but yet they're all treated the same. and that's the main complaint of our whole county. And so there's also been talk with the Department of Insurance that they're saying that if you do these defensible things, that there might be some discounts on insurance, but there's no proof of that, and there's no mechanism to say, okay, you do this, this, and this, you can drop your insurance by a certain percentage. That's just all hearsay right now. So I'm in the process of trying to get that information from Department of Insurance, but I will get our Cal Cities person to come to us and talk to us so that we can get moving on this, and in the meantime we can start identifying where our city is at the most risk and where it isn't, and use that as our statistics. So tonight, you just want direction on moving forward. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
I got a few questions. I know this already landed to us, so we got to provide direction now. So maybe we can probably start just with the structure that we already have, because we do have an code enforcement, right, for our city. So these kind of start from the basics, and we do have the social media platform, and then we do have the fire department within our city. Probably just kind of create just the basics of just informing our communities, so we can just report that to the city, just to kind of collect data. Hey, we are working based on this, and this is what we're providing to the state. We're informing our community. We code enforcement is out there, kind of doing the routines, driving around in their communities, and then if they do see anything that kind of pops out on the severe level, then we can address it from there. At least we're treating everybody equally here in our area, because I'm looking at my map and I'm in the very high zone area, and developers, when they're building all these things, they're not putting in hardly any grass anymore. They're putting in mulch, and mulch is a fire starter right away if there's a fire starting within the community. So we can start kind of working with future development that, hey, this is going to be the requirement. We can't put any wood chips around the surrounding of the houses, and we can kind of at least start from there, providing if this doesn't work out with kind of working with all the cities, but we can actually provide report to the state. So because if we don't, we are going to get some type of fine because we're not following the policies or the direction of the state. But at least we can start somewhere with social media, just informing the public or communities, and kind of having code enforcement just kind of driving around and just kind of looking at the residents, or even your guys' team for the fire department, that you guys can probably, hey, this house has been vacant for a very long time. Weeds are growing like crazy. We should probably just go and get the team together and start from there. That's just something that I'm thinking, just to kind of prevent of something that the state might hit us at the end, but at least we can start a structure from what we have.
So, Councilmember Garcia, I would direct you to, we have some documents in place. One's called the general plan for the city that has a safety element, and then the specific plans and the specific plan amendments for the developed communities and those developments, and we are engaged in that specifically. And then annually, multiple times a year, we are engaged headstrong in what we call community risk reduction and weed abatement. So all of those things, just so you have those answers, all of those things are already in play, and we're actively engaged in that regularly.
Yeah, and I would add to that, when we go through the process before a project comes before the council, usually takes several years, and a lot of it is because we're vetting all these different things. We're vetting, fire risk and traffic and all these different things to make sure that we bring a project that can conform to those type of the latest and greatest policies and fire codes and things like that. So when we're considering development, that is a huge topic of discussion, and there's a lot of back and forth between staff and developers because obviously those things cost money, but they do, but that's the cost of doing business here. So
and that's good that you guys have that report. At least that report will be ready to be delivered to the state. Like, this is what we have in place already. We're working with the policies and procedures that the state is requiring. Now there's some new changes, and now we have to kind of start from there.
So and I think that what we're asking for currently right now is part of a first step, right, is that we have to basically adopt an ordinance showing the different severity zones that's in conformance with the state fire marshal's map. And so when I was just talking to the city attorney, one of the things that's going to probably make this come into more focus is when there's an update to the fire code, which is done every 3 years, excuse me, thank you. And I think we're actually coming up due at the end of this year. Yeah, because I think when I first started with the city was when we were doing it, so we're about due. So
The general plan maybe next year, right?
general plan probably a few years out, but we do, however, we do have an update that's going to be required for the safety element, and it actually does address some of this stuff. So we do have several elements within the general plan that are going to be required to be updated. Obviously, we do the housing element every 8 years because of state mandates, and we're going to be looking at our circulation element coming up here soon. But the safety element is also one that's up for discussion and modification. And so this is exactly the type of things that we're going to be addressing with that, and it's going to be required to be done.
Will, does that include landscaping, materials?
All of that,
everything?
all of that and more. Yes.
So at this point, we can't stress strongly enough for those looking in and those hearing in to go to the link in our staff report on your comments. They're very supportive. Staff is working very hard to meet the mandates. It's not a fair mandate, but we're doing everything we can, and then we'll work with our partners to see what else we can do.
Yeah, we'll provide it on our website. We'll provide links on our social media platforms to encourage people to leave comments on it, and so that way, at least, again, we catalog all of that. Again, there's not much we can do on the, with the mandates, and they basically are saying that what they say is final type of thing, but it's not. It's final until it's not, I guess is the point. And if enough cities stand up and say, no, we need to be more organized on this. We need to have a process, because there was a process at the state level. They released maps. A lot of comments were received, and then they actually withdrew those maps and redid them. So we don't understand why that same process can't be done at the local level, and I think that's what we're asking for.
And also pull comments from other cities that are going through the same thing we are, with the same kind of topography that we have and what have you.
If I was
Density.
a homeowner or a business owner in the city of Calimesa, and I live nearby, you can rest assured that my comments are going into the city where I reside, and I'm encouraging my neighbors on my loved ones to comment. It just doesn't seem like due process and a fair requirement.
Yeah.
And it's going to hit us all in the pocketbook.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments? Okay, so Will, do you have everything you need to move forward? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, do we ever know what the penalties would be for that? I mean, I know we talked about it, but
Well, for failure to adopt the map or failure to clear your property?
to adopt the map.
As I said, there's nothing clearly spelled out. We'll look through the regulations and report back to you when
Yeah, I'd like
it's
to
time
know.
to adopt the map. But, I imagine that down the road, there would be implications with the insurability of homes. If you don't have a locally adopted map, in compliance with, state law, I imagine that, like I said before, there probably will be, if there's sufficient political will in Sacramento, penalties that go to funding of local fire departments. And
Yeah,
who
we
knows
do
what
apply.
else.
We do apply for several grants at the state level through Cal OES, and I'm assuming that eligibility will be tied to that, especially if enough cities don't do it.
So state overreach in this case, telling us to do something that we don't want to do, otherwise we're not going to get funding or we'll be penalized.
That's usually where they hit you first. Is through the purse strings. Yep,
But
that's
in
exactly it.
addition to comments, we need to probably work with our legislators and get support letters in so that we can
Yeah.
give them what they need to fight for us.
Absolutely, yeah. We can engage both Assemblymember Wallace and Senator Ochoa-Bogue's offices on this as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Please.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
is there any penalties for residents?
Sorry.
Any penalties for residents?
Yes, if your properties are not cleared in compliance, it's subject to abatement as a nuisance. So, yeah, there's actually a schedule of penalties I was just reading through here. It's basically like misdemeanor or administrative citation level that we can apply at the state level or at the city level. Those levels fines 250 first violation, 500 second, that sort of thing, and then ultimately abatement.
So just to be clear though, that is something that we would enforce, the city would enforce.
And probably if we don't enforce it,
And what happens if we don't?
That's not clear, but I think all this.
Okay.
That's where the record of non-compliance becomes an issue with your eligibility for grants.
Okay, I think I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on this. Okay, so there may be a way for us, we have to adopt this, but not necessarily be proactive in enforcing it or finding people. Is that correct?
There's no mandate that I can see at the current time that says we have to affirmatively go out and catch every single case of non-compliance.
Or,
No.
okay.
I think it's giving us the authority to do so, I think is what it's saying, is it not?
I would say that's a good way to frame it.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay,
It's
all right.
consistent with our traditional authority to abate any nuisance.
And that's the reason I brought up the whole code enforcement, social media, just to kind of get something like that in place, just to kind of show the state that we're doing something.
Right.
Thank you. No other comments, we'll move on to mayor and council reporting. Edgar, we'll start with you tonight.
Sorry, did we ever get the direction?
I asked, well, he said he.
You got it?
yeah.
Okay, and we'll
Yeah.
bring it back after the public comment period for consideration of the ordinance.
Thank you. Edgar?
All right, thank you. So, good evening, everyone. As a proud member of the City of Calimesa council member and as a parent, I'm excited to share some amazing news. 3 of our local schools have been named 2025 California Distinguished Schools in the state of California. Starlight Elementary and Palm Innovation Academy in Beaumont Unified School District, and Wellwood Elementary and Chucaipa Calimesa Unified. This honor reflects more than just strong academics. It speaks to the dedication, heart, and hard work that our schools are doing for our children. To the principals and administrators, to the teachers, to every staff member, custodians, aides, office team members, and support staff, thank you. You are the heartbeat of these campuses, and your hard work is changing lives. To our students, keep striving. To our families, thank you for your partnership. And to our entire community, this is our win. Let's continue to build a future where every child has the opportunity to thrive. Congratulations to our distinguished schools. Calimesa is proud to have you guys here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
I attended RCA and WRCOG, and I will have a brief review for all of you forthcoming. The WRCOG General Assembly is going to meet as usual in June. I believe it's June 12th. The keynote speaker at this one is going to be Admiral William McRaven, who wrote Make Your Bed. So really looking forward to that. I think we usually have a table or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's 10 up to 10, right?
Yep.
So just one day?
Yep. June 12th. June 12th. Yeah. That concludes my report.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did not attend any regional meetings, so that will conclude my report.
Eric?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. March 27th, I attended the regular scheduled meeting of the RTA. Just to let the council and everyone know that a vote was passed to allow for a transfer of eligible vehicles to various in-county agencies which have met the county's requirement guidelines for that process. In addition, they made a vote that was passed for Alliant Insurance to be a brokerage for RTA, so just passing that along. March 28th, attended the League of California Cities, or Cal Cities Policy Committee meeting in Burbank. So I'm currently on the Board of Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations, and a complete summary will be made available once I receive that in a few weeks. A brief overview of the bills and updates is provided to each one of you this evening. On one note that I will make mention of, the biggest issue that they were discussing in our particular policy committee was AI and the use of AI within city governance and possible hackings and all kinds of issues that come along with that. And so what they're promoting is for every city to have policy in place which directs staff and employees on how to do that. And so this evening, with everyone's consent, I would direct staff to work on that, just so that we're up to speed on the AI. April 3rd, 2025, this year, I attended the Yucaipa Valley Water District Board meeting, and agenda item, which I'm making you all aware of this evening, was they formed a new ad hoc slash possible JPA, not sure what it's going to be, but to develop a wildfire coordination, prevention, preparedness strategy for this Yucaipa Valley area that we're part of. This would include appointees from Yucaipa City Council, Calimesa City Council, both fire departments, Yucaipa Valley Water District, and Crafton Hills Fire Academy. As put forth, their intent is to share resources, evaluate fireproofing and methods, and strategic planning and fire safe councils throughout both cities. And the general feeling was they didn't want to get caught, much like LA County was, with lack of water or resources to fight the fires. So that's what seems to be driving that. So I imagine at some point they'll be reaching out to our city manager and asking if we want to participate in that. So that concludes my reports. Thank you.
Was our local water agency part of that?
South Mesa was not included in that.
Okay. They weren't mentioned, they weren't invited to participate?
I don't know that they were invited per se. I just know that this was a preliminary description of what they were looking at. I know that because after the meeting I did speak with some of the members there about this, and it seems very preliminary. This is more of an information gathering stage, it seems. So I don't want to speak for them, but I'm sure it can be addressed at some point.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And thanks staff for all this great work that they do and their report.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I attended a couple of meetings this month. Attended RCTC's Budget and Implementation Committee. It was routine items except for one item that was brought up a lot of discussion, and this is going to be forwarded to the main commission, which is tomorrow, I believe, and that has to do with call boxes on the freeway. There's only one vendor in the state of California that provided the call boxes. You're all familiar with them. There aren't very many. I don't know how many are being in use, but they pulled staff from supporting those boxes on the freeway, and they have indicated to all the transportation commissions in the state, there are 58 of them, that as of June 30, when the contract expires, they are not going to renew. So the transportation commissions are now looking at funding the removal of those call boxes in their jurisdictions, because if all the call boxes are in the Caltrans right-of-way, and if funding stops, those items have to be removed. And so that's going to be an item that the full commission for Riverside County is going to be addressing. SBCTA is also doing that. So the discussion was an emotional one. For everybody, it's a sense of security to see these call boxes on the side of the freeway. Well, not a lot of them are working. I think of the original 3,000 or 4,000 that there were, I think only 300 remain that are functioning. And so because of everybody having a cell phone, and the freeway, most cities have a freeway service patrol system in place, and so there's nothing to support the funding for those call boxes. And RCTC is considering whether to do something to continue it or to remove them. But there's really it's kind of an end of an era, unfortunately. I've only used it once in my life, but I remember when that was. It was very important. Also on that was on March 24th. On March 24th, we also had our City Capital Projects Workshop. It was very good. I'd like to thank the staff for all the work that they did in putting that together for us. March 27th and 28th, I attended a MetroLink workshop. I'm new to that board, and this was basically an informational session for new board members, and we went over quite a few items. But Metrolink, which is also a Southern California Regional Rail Authority, covers 5 different counties. It's 2 commissions, Riverside County Transportation Commission, Ventura County Transportation Commission, and then Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Orange County Transportation Authority, and San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. So there are quite a few people that are under this program, and so it's very informative. And of course, it's all about funding, lack of ridership, and so on. That's what drives public transportation is ridership. You don't ride, they discontinue service. And so that's a big issue. Also attended an RTA meeting on April 2nd. It was routine items. Attended on April 3rd, SCAG transportation meeting. This is also informational, and where they elected their chair and vice chair for the year. The chair being Mike Judge with Ventura County Transportation Commission, and Thomas Wong from San Gabriel Valley COG as the vice president. And most of the discussion was having to do with the fires in LA, Altadena, and the Palisades on disaster preparedness and how we can work together. I think that's the theme for the next 10 years for all cities is disaster preparedness. I just wanted to bring up an item of interest for us, because this is something that's been going on for 3 years. The city of Corona, it was on Facebook is where I saw it. City of Corona had 3 council persons with their thumbs down on a housing project, and the reason they did that, they voted against it, and that's because the state has a law that allows them to come and force cities to build where they did not plan to build. And in this case, the council had approved 19 units, but with that new state law, it increased the units to 38, and that was to put an ADU in every parcel. So that's something that could happen here too, if we're not careful, and so we're always vigilant about that. But the evil laws, the evil laws. Okay, and so that's all that I have. So, Will, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one update. This is getting a little ahead. This is a little bit of advanced planning here, but Caltrans is doing a pavement rehab project on Interstate 10 from County Line Road to about a half-mile east of the Brookside Avenue bridge. And so, be the number 2 and number 3 lanes. They did a rehab project in the same area for the number 1 lane back in 2016. So they only need to do lanes 2 and 3. This will also include bridge rail replacements on Singleton Road and Brookside Avenue bridges, and guardrail replacement on the Sandalwood Avenue bridge. So this will result in temporary closures on the Singleton and Brookside bridges, along with closures of Interstate 10. City staff recently met with Caltrans to go over detour plans, but the work is not scheduled to start until January of 2026. So this is, I'm giving you 8 months notice. So now I will say that as that time actually gets closer, more specifics on the nights that are closed. It'll be nightly closures. It'll be night closures only. So it'll be overnight closures. So it won't impact evening commutes, morning commutes. It'll just be in the middle of the night. Obviously, we need to know that for police and fire services as well, so that they're aware of the closures and can detour around them accordingly. So again, it's ways off, but it is nice to get some advance notice and that they're engaging us in the process early. So that's all I've got on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention one thing one item that I brought up at the SCAG meeting, and that was we have the technology to notice people, and so what happens when there's a fire or some kind of catastrophe, people don't know about it until they come upon it. Then all of a sudden you have this traffic jam, and so I said, why can't we get our IT people together to let the public know, don't go in this area because of a fire, don't go in this area. And so that's something that we should probably look at as well, because you know what our traffic is like on the I-10. So, okay, well, I'd like to thank the staff for all the work that you've done on the screen. I'd like to thank the public for coming forward and giving us your comments. We do listen to you. Thank you for doing that. At this time, we have a notice on a closed session items for this evening.
council will now recess to, is this one? Okay. Council will now recess to closed session to discuss two items: conference with labor negotiators, city negotiators, city manager, and the deputy city manager. This is regarding unrepresented employees, all city employees excepting the city manager. Also conference with labor negotiators, city negotiator, city manager, and deputy city manager. The represented employees in this case are the Calimesa Professional Firefighters Association.
Thank you. And so at this time at 7:18, we will go into closed session. I'd like to thank Allison for coming tonight and reporting for us. We appreciate that. And our next meeting is April 21 at 6 p.m. Thank you all for coming tonight.